Today we're speaking with Paul Bray, who is Chief Technologist for End User and Collaboration at Computacenter, about Computacenters Digital Me campaign and how it's helping organisations in their digital transformation journeys. Hi Paul.
Good afternoon.
So tell us about Computacenters Digital Me campaign.
Okay, well, I mean, the campaign's really driven out of the disruption and the transformation that's occurring in all of our customers' environments. We know that digital and digital technologies are becoming prevalent and changing business models. And from our perspective, Digital Me as a campaign really seeks to address the workplace transformation opportunity that exists to support those businesses, essentially. So there's obviously a myriad of new technologies, new themes that have entered the workplace IT environment. So the campaign is really about our offering to aggregate and integrate those solutions to deliver that customer value. But really the emphasis that we've placed on the campaign is looking at that from a end user's perspective, quite distinct from other approaches, and really focusing on the user needs and how we can support and enable the user in support of that transformation.
And do you think organisations in general struggle to meet their employees' expectations when it comes to technology?
I think it's a difficult one, and a lot of the work that we've done over the past few years substantiates that fact. We know full well that there's typically a disjoint between employees' expectations and feelings of the equipment and the empowerment that they're given versus what the businesses and the IT departments are able to fulfill, and ultimately that's manifested itself through shadow IT and bring your own device, whether endorsed or not, that we've seen materialise in certain aspects of our customer base across different sectors and different verticals.
And Computacenter has undertaken a long-term Workstyle analysis programme with their customers. Can you explain what Workstyle analysis means?
Yes, we can. So really going back to that Digital Me premise and the focus on the users, getting a deep understanding of what our users' needs and expectations to some degree are in the workplace environment, because it's important to understand those even if you can't fulfill and execute against those. So the Workstyle analysis has got quite a long history within Computacenter and is really a consultative engagement with our customers and the end users within our customer base to understand how they're working today, what the challenge is, what's working for them and what's not working for them, and then ultimately help our customers rationalise that and come up with a set of plans and approaches to further empower and equip their users to capitalise on kind of the opportunity that the digital technologies can potentially offer the businesses.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about how it works.
Okay, so essentially it's a consultancy-based engagement, so there's various techniques that you can employ to try and understand how your users are working and what they need. So, you know, some approaches used by other organisations include kind of offline processes, if you will, so questionnaires and such like and surveys. Our approach is purposefully a lot more intimate than that, so we actually have a one-on-one conversation just like we're doing now, where, you know, we get in front of the end user, we sit down and we just try and understand how they work today, what are the challenges that they're facing, what's their actual context of work, because, you know, every user would like to think they're different, but there are lots of different use cases within our user base. So it's just really to have a conversation, understand what the pain points, what the challenges are for them, what's working well, to various scales, but en masse getting a representative cross-section from within different parts of the customer's business units or different functions, and then try and take that up to the next level to summarise some of the key opportunities and challenges that organisation's facing in and around that workplace, that end user portfolio.
And people are often resistant to change. Did you encounter any pushback or any resistance from employees that you spoke to regarding their technology transformation journey?
As we've done a number of these engagements now, quite the opposite actually. So I think, you know, as we tried to promote the proposition into our customer stakeholders, there's clearly a little bit of reservation initially about us getting in front of the users, potentially setting or mis-setting an expectation of what's going to happen next. So that's a sensitive balance that we need to strike, typically through our IT department contacts is the way that it manifests. As we get to the users, quite the opposite, actually. I think in some of the first engagements that we did, and probably in certain sectors, there are concerns that these things can be construed as kind of time in motion studies and such like. Really, we go in as a outside entity. We might provide services to that customer in a different context, but we're doing this activity as an independent. You know, we get plus 90% first time attendance when we schedule an interview like this. So that's probably one of the most more surprising outcomes that we've got from it, is actually the users want to engage in this conversation and speak to us and hopefully make their lives better and simpler moving forward.
Okay. And so, but how do you turn the feedback that you receive from those users into practical and positive changes within the organisation?
We get very kind of qualitative feedback. We get very emotional feedback sometimes, that the users can be quite emotional about the topics that and the challenges that they're facing, particularly when it impacts perhaps work-life balance through the kind of technology execution that's in place. So we pull together all of that information and then try to, as I say, aggregate that across different customers, pull out the key sentiments and expressions that we can quantify. We present it back as nice management level dashboard information to show the facts and figures.
You talk about users feeling quite passionate. Is it is Workstyles really about IT, or is it a much larger thing, taken in cultural or organisational processes as well?
Yeah, it's absolutely that. So we're not embarking on these exercises to understand the specific technology implications or outputs. We are addressing, and we're seeking to understand actually how the culture of an organisation fits within the working paradigm that they offer to their users. Essentially, you know, one specific customer that we did an exercise with fed back to us that they were fundamentally constrained in how they worked because the organisation had a meeting culture. So, you know, most of their time and the tools that they were given for the job didn't support the fact that they were racing around from meeting room to meeting room, doing meetings as work, and didn't have a mobile device like you've got to enable them to be effective and collaborate when they get into the next meeting and the next meeting, for example.
Yeah, and can you share any of those findings that have been particularly interesting or that surprised you from your own research?
Yeah, so there's been a few. I think the first one, as I mentioned, is around the turnout rate was a key finding as an outcome of the exercise. So just the sheer level of pent-up demand, one would presume that the users actually take the time out of their busy days. You know, we've done these surveys in media organisations, professional services organisations. You know, busy people take their time out at quite a senior level to come and speak to us and kind of put their opinions forward about what the challenges and what they should be doing. So the level of engagement is quite interesting. I think, as you might expect, users have very different views. So the fact that we do this across a number of different users, you know, some users report that, for example, the service desk that they get is brilliant and they get a contact within 30 seconds. For other users, it's their primary and major complaint is the level of service that they receive from the service desk, for example. So the huge disparity just within an organisation, however that manifests, whether it be the business unit that you're sat in, the geographical location and the office that you're based at, is really quite interesting. I think the other one, really, you know, as we talk about digital workplace, one of the key drivers and outputs of the digital workplace is to improve collaboration, both within and outside the organisation. Collaboration is a topic that's been spoken about for many, many years. I don't think anyone's particularly cracked that nut. If you speak to users, they always complain that they don't have the collaboration tools and capabilities, whether you've rolled out a SharePoint or a Slack or whatever it might be. Users always want more. And that comes through quite a lot in the feedback, particularly when we've had organisations that we would consider are quite well progressed in that area, quite mature. And then allied to that, email, you know, the world still seems to run on email. So all of this sentiment and expression that we get, that, you know, the digital natives entering the labour force, now we communicate via Slack groups or Facebook groups and don't understand email. Actually, email is completely prevalent in all of our organisations, and there's no sign that it's actually going anywhere, despite a few interesting headlines that we've seen over the past few years around that.
Okay. And we talked about the value to your customers, but what's the value to Computacenter of undertaking something like Workstyle analysis?
So I think, you know, there's several levels of value from our perspective as as a provider into the customer, if you will. So, the first thing is it absolutely gets us at the level of engagement that we want with our customers. We want to be talking to our customers about the challenges and their business problems. We can talk about technology. We've got great people to speak about technology, but we'd rather be having the other conversation and helping you solve a problem. So it really positions us right at the front end of that process so that we can help our customers in the best possible way by guiding them through the decisions, understanding how to meet that need, and then ultimately getting into the technology aspect.
Finally, can you provide any examples of any of your customers that have undergone significant transformation as a result of the analysis project?
Yeah, so there's probably two examples at different ends of the spectrum. So, we were working, the start of last year, we embarked on this exercise for a media organisation. They went through that process, identified a range of themes, as with most media organisations, fairly centralised to a couple of major locations, but they had some fundamental challenges about how they were able to collaborate and communicate, and the technology that was being provided to their users, it wasn't giving them, the technology wasn't enabling them to have the agility that they need in such a digital industry as media is. So out of the back of the exercise, we found, things, meeting rooms that just weren't set up for the kind of collaboration that users wanted to have these days. A lot about the facilities didn't suit the working patterns of the users. So we were able to identify all of those different themes, and then subsequently from, as we move that Workstyle analysis process forward, we then get into the more interesting stuff, which is kind of road mapping and planning how we're going to resolve those challenges. How do we actually execute against that and provide solutions that provide value back? So this customer's mid-flight in a fairly significant, sizable transformation opportunity with a lot of different streams to try and pull forward and deliver a lot of those benefits, which actually, interestingly enough, they've been quite progressive in how they've communicated that ongoing journey. It's not as if they did the Workstyle analysis, engaged the users, and then have gone away and worked to figure out what they're doing. They've kept that dialogue and that engagement point up with the users. In and of itself, gives you a set of information, and one can make decisions based on the information that's provided that may not actually fit the context of the environment. And a good example of that is we did some work with a clinical organisation. We identified that the users were pretty much bound to central PCs that were kind of dotted around different parts of clinical wards or whatever they may be. So, as is the technical opportunity in the marketplace, we saw that actually equipping doctors and nurses with mobile devices and tablets, much as you've got, would actually enable them to spend more time at the patient's bedside, give them faster access to information, all positive things that are very relevant and very useful. And what we actually found was we proposed to remove the central equipment and just give the users the mobile devices, and that had two unintended consequences potentially. Luckily, we fed back to the users and kind of did that check and balance, managed to intercept it, but the feedback was actually, those are highly pressured environments, and whilst the aspirations to spend more time at the patient's bedside, actually the doctors and nurses need time away from the family and the patient to digest and reconcile the information that they've learned. So actually being able to do that in front of the patient didn't really help them. The second thing, which was more material as you talk about the culture of the organisation, is actually these central PC clusters that you might have on a ward, kind of a typical sister's desk as such like. That's the point at which the learning happens for the junior doctors and nurses. They congregate around these machines, they show scans and reports and such like, and they have a dialogue that educates and trains the junior members of staff. If you remove that central hub, you take that opportunity away and you remove a key ability for new doctors and nurses to learn on the job. So that's an example of where it can give you good information, almost a false positive in that way. So you really, once you've done the analysis, you really need to re-engage back with the business and back with the users to ensure that what you're doing is fit and is right and is correct, just to address that point.
That's really interesting. Paul, thank you.